Hello and welcome to Upon Further Review, your weekly podcast of all things Northeast Indiana football, including the Summit Athletic Conference right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Alongside Eric Dukevich, I'm the coach Shannon Griffith, and we're going to have a really good show tonight. We're going to bring on Coach Doug Dinan from Carroll High School, as well as Jason Dorfler from the Leo Lions, and then we'll finish off with Justin Kinney from Outside the Huddle, as he will provide us some insight besides ourselves that may help us break down not only this year in the Summit Athletic Conference, the Northeast 8, ACAC, but as well as we move forward into the playoffs. Eric, I can't believe it. The regular season has finished. We have crowned some co-champs, tri-champs. We've had a little bit of controversy as it surrounds the SAC. But even us at 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM had some controversy on Friday. I leave town for one Friday and it goes all to you know what. So I'm not quite sure what all went down, but I'm sure you'll enlighten us, as I know as much as we are disappointed that we weren't able to bring you Friday night's action. There's nobody disappointed more so than 1380 The Fan and its federated media as to what happened. So maybe you can fill us in and as it pertains to what went on Friday night.
Yeah, so basically Friday, I think there was some technical issues with a combine out in that part of Allen County. A lot of farmland out there took out a utility pole of some sort near Maples Road and US 27 south of downtown, and knocked out the internet and phone line service at 1380 The Fan and their sister stations that are part of Federated Media. And so basically for most of the weekend, from Friday into a few days into this week, that they were out without a phone line service and internet service. So unfortunately, Brett wasn't able to broadcast, and Justin was going to be on the color commentary. They weren't able to broadcast the 1380 game of the week from Homestead. So Adam Lundy and myself were able to, after the pregame show, we're able to do kind of a whip around coverage type thing all night long, just to kind of keep everybody abreast of different games in the area, especially the lead game of the night with Homestead and Lures. And it was a dandy out there at Dave Walters Stadium. Goes late into the fourth quarter, a couple turnovers late on both teams' drives, and we get a 10-7 win for Homestead that gives a one loss to Lures. So they had already clinched a share, and then that enacted the share of the title with Snyder. Of course, the controversy there too, Coach, just quickly, and we'll talk about this with Justin later on in the show, and Coach Dinan maybe a little bit as well. But we thought going into the night that the circumstances were that if Lures were to lose, which they did, it would trigger, and Snyder and Carroll both won, they would be the SAC champions. As it turned out, after the games were over, after the champions were crowned, and I put that in quotes because we crowned all three of those teams. I said it on the air on 1380, and come to find out, about an hour later, we get the new information that that there was some changes with or some different a look at it in the previous week, and so ultimately, because of tiebreakers, it was just Snyder and Lures. But certainly, a memorable evening for many different ways. But Lures and Snyder win the SAC, and then in the NE 8 we have Leo, East Noble, and New Haven. Coach Jason Dorfler from the Leo Lions will join us later as well. ACAC champs are Adams Central, and then NECC, you have the big champions in West Noble and the small champions in East Side. Warsaw snuck in there as well. Not a team we talk about a lot, but they'll be playing Carroll in the sectional semifinal. It took to the last week for them, but they were able to get a share of the Northern Lakes Conference. They're a great team, and they're going to lock up with the Chargers here in a couple weeks at Warsaw. So that will be a fun sectional matchup of two very good teams. And so a lot of good football on Friday night and a lot of implications, and I think a lot of things that will have lasting impacts on, the SAC. What moving forward, I think, and we can talk to Justin about this down the line as well, but I think they're going to have to really evaluate what happened and how it all transpired and how
Yeah.
it was all disseminated on Friday night and into Saturday morning, because that was not fair to in my opinion. The information I had was that Carroll was an SAC champion. To have to go back and say, sorry, Carroll, you're not the that's not fair to the media. That's not fair to the kids. That's not fair to the Carroll or the other champions that won, because it was completely blindsided by the fact that what I was told was on Thursday, the athletic directors within the SAC met and this rule came up and they had a vote and quietly approved an interpretation of the rule that ultimately left Carroll on the outside looking in. But we certainly, Carroll's had a great season. Snyder's had a great season. Lure's had a great season. It just so happened that ultimately the official SAC champions are Lures and Snyder.
Well, not to put a damper on the year, but it was a lot of really good football again this year in Northeast Indiana, and that's something that we've become accustomed to over the last few years, and what the coaches and the players and uh, have done in terms of on the field and off the field on Friday nights and throughout the week. So we get a little spoiled a little bit in terms of what we have here in Northeast Indiana. But yeah, I'm sure they're going to figure out some of these hurdles that they'll have to, get over with this new alignments scenario. It did give the coaches 2 non-conference games, which they wanted for themselves, and I don't blame them in that regard. But when it comes to the conference, they're just going to have a better communicational aspect with everyone involved, so that at the end of the year, everybody has an idea of what's going on. But let's bring in Coach Doug Dinan from Carroll High School and these Chargers, who wrapped up the season with a victory. Coach, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Well, we're putting one foot in front of the other, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
At this
absolutely. One day at a
time. We don't play, but I feel like I've taken enough bumps and bruises through the year that I probably need a week or two off to.
You got Shannon. Is this your bye week too?
That was last Friday.
Last Friday. I was gone, and everything hit the fan, so to speak. But I guess that's a good question leading into tonight is you guys have a bye this week, and how will you utilize this week for your kids after coming off a pretty grueling year? Now you got a week and you're prepping for Warsaw, and that kind of goes into my second question, with Warsaw being what they like to do offensively. How are you guys going to utilize this week for you and your kids?
Well, first of all, Warsaw is a very good opponent, very good football team, and we take and we have done this in the past couple of years. We take this week very routine. Monday through Thursday, we will practice our normal routine. Monday is more of a walkthrough day. We're in helmets only. We're talking about install. We're playing a little 7-on-7. It's a very light day. We'll be off by about 5:30, and then Tuesday and Wednesday are big days, and they are grueling, physical days for us, and they will be the same this week. And then Thursday again is a kind of a redefine and define things for the upcoming Friday typically. So we'll do the same thing this week, and then next week we'll roll in and repeat that plan, and we play on the following Friday. But we'll take this Friday off. We won't bring kids in at all. It's our fall break in school, and so they're out of school, and so it'll be a good week, good weekend for the kids to be away, and they're off school on Monday. But we will practice on that following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then at Warsaw, the following Friday.
Looking back at the year here and having those 2 non-conference games, how did you feel that helped overall with your season and such, as you have now a chance to a little bit of reflection back?
Well, I think it made, the beginning of the year, very impactful. Many times, and nothing against any opponents, but if you open up with some, softer schedules and teams that that you're going to beat, you're not tested. But we were battle tested right from the beginning. With Hamilton Southeastern and Warren Central, and then battle tested, with Snyder early. And so, our team understood, and they knew, deficiencies. They knew what we had to work on. We knew areas that we had to improve on. And I think it was very beneficial for us. And I think, as you alluded to within the changes in the conference, these two non-conference games, big games against indie opponents was very, very beneficial for us.
One other question I had this year, and it goes a little bit to maybe how you use Jimmy throughout this season. Really didn't see much of him in terms of the pre-designed quarterback run stuff that most people will see out of some of the spread offense, where you have that design system for the quarterback. And you guys started getting back to it in the latter part of the season. It's almost if people forgot that how good an athlete Jimmy is in terms of what he brings to the table, not just throwing the football, but his ability to run the football. Was there a reason why you waited towards the latter part of the year? Was there anything just from the standpoint of trying to eliminate as many hits as possible that he could take, and all those things that go through coaches' minds throughout the planning process for the season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're spot on. I mean, it's a long year. I mean, it's the regular season is a long season, and Coach Papagiannis and I would have continual conversation about, what are our quarterback runs this week, and for about 6 weeks, I said, we've got to minimize his hits, we've got to minimize his runs. Let's utilize him in the pass game. Come week 7, I said it's time to go. And we had to prepare for playoffs, comes week 7, 8, and 9. And so we put the quarterback runs, back in, and utilized him on empty run plays, quarterback keeps, the old, quarterback follow, and the old
Right.
dart play, and all of those things, even outside zone, which is a quarterback, keep play. Those are design runs, and it's time for him now to carry that load, both running and passing, and it's go time. And so we brought those quarterback runs back into the shuffle.
Yeah, I'll mute there.
I am.
No, my
Yeah,
compadre.
yeah, there we go. Coach Doug Dynan joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Coach, last year you guys get to state that magical run. You guys did a lot. You get a lot back this year. The hunger for this team, for what they were able to do last year heading into this playoffs, I felt just looking at you guys in the early part of the summer that there was a lot of where, you picked up from where you kind of left off from a year ago in a lot of ways. Talk about where this team is compared to a year ago as far as what they were able to take away from that experience and how they're applying it as they get ready for this next run.
Well, the maturation process was, something that had to take place. I mean, we've got, 2 receivers that are sophomores, a junior tight end that played very little for us last year at all. Hanson being the only returning starter in those 4 guys. Obviously, Jimmy and Nate are returning starters, but they're still young. They're only juniors, and an offensive line that was replacing many guys. And so, it was them learning, them understanding, them being battle tested, being against big opponents, and the growth happened, and their understanding of the offense, the speed, the necessity of physicality on the outside. All of that took place, and over 9 weeks, they have grown, they have understood, and they understand the importance, at every position. Offensively, we feel if we take care of the ball, then we're going to be in every game. And the same was true very much on the defensive side. I mean, we had, some very good leaders, in our secondary with Jorge Valdez last year, and replacing those guys and replacing a couple guys up front on the defensive line, was the key. And they have grown. They have learned how to play the physicality of 6A football. And we feel that we've got a chance if we continue to play at this level.
Certainly. And you talked about the defense a little bit too, but they've shown up big. I mean, I know we talk a lot about the offense, but just as a well-oiled machine for you guys and what you guys are able to do offensive and defensively, it kind of feeds off of each other. That dynamic for your team. What has been most impressive for you as this coach of the Carroll Chargers this year that you've seen from a group that made it down to Indianapolis a year ago?
Well, I think it's the unity, and the culture that is in the class. I mean, the culture that is in the locker room with all, the character and the class that they continually show. Guys like Ashton Pasetsky, Braden Steely being senior leaders, and they continue to push everybody to a higher level. And that's what we have to have if we're going to again make a run deep in the playoffs. You've got to deal with adversity. You've got to deal with close games. You've got to be able to come from behind, and we've been tested in all those situations. Right now we're dealing with adversity with some guys being injured, and we're hoping that they're going to be able to come back here in a couple of weeks. But if not, then it's the next man up, and guys got to be ready to play.
Certainly.
Yeah, you had Starks. I know he was a little banged up against Homestead, I believe, in that game that we covered. But Green really came in and did a pretty good job for you guys. And now he's just a junior as well. So you've got a pretty talented backfield there that are only juniors. Talk about Green and his development to where he's really stepped in and kind of carried some load there for you guys.
Well, Nate Starks is, a returning starter and, been dealing with a hamstring injury, goes clear back in the spring when he was running track. And so, he's continually battled that and fought through that. And, there was a couple weeks where he couldn't go, and Dejon Green, stepped in and had very, very good games, and continually, carries the load and does his job and is a great teammate. Him and Nate continually talk about, their offensive responsibilities. And that's the example that you have to have. If somebody isn't able to go, then that next man has to be able to play at a high level for you to continue to be able to play at a high level as a team.
Talk a little bit here and about the SAC and how it, the two divisions and such. Did you like the way it was done this year in terms of having the two divisions and having, crossovers and understanding that with two games being devoted to, outside competition, not everybody was going to get to play everybody. What was your thoughts on that, dynamic this year?
I am totally in support of the schedule, even moving forward as what we're doing in the conference. The two games that each school schedules outside of the conference, it's completely up to them as to the level that they want to schedule. We made choices to schedule some Indianapolis teams that are very, very good traditional football programs and that will, continually tell us and indicate to us that the level that we have to be at. This next year, we will play in 2024, I should say, we will play Hamilton Southeastern and Center Grove. Okay, so and also within the schedule, we didn't, or Lures didn't have the opportunity to play a couple of bigger schools, and that's ourself and Snyder. But that will change. You have a home and away situation. This next year in 2024 will essentially be the same schedule, flipping the home and aways for everybody. And then, teams will roll off, for instance, for us, we didn't play Concordia and Lures. And so in 2 years, those teams will roll back onto our schedule. And two other teams, from the other division will roll off. the design of the conference or design of the schedule is for two things. One, to give everybody the opportunity to play games outside of your conference, to do whatever it is you want to do, build a program, test your program, play against bigger schools, secure wins, whatever that is that you want. And two, allow some of the smaller schools that are looking to build, are continually looking to improve, to get some bigger schools off of their schedule, for a 2-year window. And that was successful. And, a team like Southside, it's very beneficial that they don't have to play two big schools, in a 2-year rotation, so that they can, schedule against other schools, they can get some wins, and they can build a program.
To that end, Coach, too, Friday night, what was for Carroll? Were you guys surprised at the end of the night that the SAC title was not partially yours, or were you familiar with the circumstances that were kind of playing out there, or because a lot of the people in Carroll felt like it got taken away from them? What, from your perspective, where was that going into Friday night as far as what your team was going to do?
Here's the bottom line. Here's what happened in 2020. Okay, we won every game in the conference and won the conference outright. Okay, if we don't lose to Snyder, then we don't have this conversation. If we desire to win the conference, then you got to win all the games. You can't have a head-to-head competition within your division and lose that and expect to still be within a tiebreaker situation. Okay, in my perspective, this was only my perspective, that we were looking at two divisions, and you would have a winner of Division A, winner of Division B, and then you would look at the head-to-head competition that you would have between those two winners of each division. If there is, and you could determine a overall conference champion if that happened. If you don't have a head-to-head competition, as we had this year, then you tie. And we've had multiple ties within the conference, and you share the bell. And it is what it is. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, okay, 100% honest, okay? Two things. One, if we want to win the conference, we got to win all the games. And two, we place much more importance on winning a state championship and winning a sectional, regional, semi-state championship than we do on winning a conference championship. Every year we desire for one goal, and our goal is to win a state championship. We don't stop at the end of 9 weeks and say, hey, we won a championship. It's time to stop. It's time to not move on. So it's we put on the wall in the field house at our school, we put championships, sectional, regional, semi-state, and state championships on the wall. Nowhere in our field house will you see conference championships for any team, tennis, cross country, whatever that is, in our field house. And so the priority for us was always and will always be to win in the tournament. And the conference is what it is. Okay. And our congratulations to Snyder, and to Lures. Lures didn't have to play 2 games. Good for them. Okay. That's a 2-year cycle. And 2 years after that, they've got to deal with it. And Snyder beat us in head-to-head competition that we had opportunities, and we didn't win. So, congratulations to them too. And they will make arrangements to pick the bell up and paint the bell and enjoy that trophy for the next year.
I respect that answer, Doug. As a coach, I understand exactly what you said there, and I think that's exactly the message that you gave to your kids as well, about this scenario as it pertains to this year and years going forward and things of that magnitude. One last thing here, hopefully this year in the sectional, and you won't have to be on the road as much as you guys were a year ago, because the travel budget's probably a little bit spent from last year.
Yeah, we're on the road at Warsaw, and they have tremendous facilities. They do.
Absolutely.
It's a great place to go play. I love the environment up there. And they are competitive, and they are a good football team. They are a good football team, with only one loss coming to Mishawaka. And, I'm sure we'll talk about that game, but And it is what it is after that. Then you look at where you're in the bracket, and are you on the bottom? Did the team that you're going to play, were they home? Were they away?
Yeah, I know.
And we hope to be at home as much as we can. And last year we were fortunate for many games within the tournament to play at home, and we hope that that's the case here in 23.
What are the biggest challenges you have facing you with this Warsaw team? I know that I'm sure you guys have started the process of looking at them and then trying to get the breakdowns done, and let me paint the picture a little bit better for maybe those that don't know much about Warsaw. Warsaw is your old traditional wishbone offense where the fullback is paramount and everything runs off of that. How do you prepare for that team going into this year's sectional?
Right. So first of all, Coach Curtis does a tremendous job,
Mm-hmm.
and any team that runs a wishbone offense is a highly disciplined team, and they want to gain 3 to 4 yards on each carry. And the challenge that we have is that we have to get them off schedule. We have to stop the run. We have to stop the dive. We have to put them in situations to where they're not comfortable and they have second and long, third and longs, and it creates situations with your defense that you cannot play your standard house defense, if you will. Things have to change. The responsibility within the defense is everybody has to play assignment football. I mean, there's guys assigned to each portion of the option itself, and you have to be very disciplined in doing so. And in the time that you don't, and somebody doesn't do their job, they end up making big plays. And they want to take the ball, they want to hold on to the ball, and they want to grind clock, and they want to gain 3 to 4 yards, and they want to just be very methodical in their process. And consequently, their defense is very disciplined at the same time, and they want to get the ball back to their offense,
Yeah.
so that they can just possess and take the clock. And for instance, they win a game at the beginning of the year. That's a very close football game. 8-6. But that is not a downfall. To them, that is not a negative at all. They want to possess the ball and take care of the ball the entire time.
Yeah, well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on tonight upon the Upon Further Review podcast and speaking candidly about the great season you guys had, everything towards the end, and looking ahead to the sectional matchup with Warsaw and down the road after that as well, perhaps. And appreciate it. And congrats on a great season, and best of luck to you in the state tournament. And I'm sure we'll see you down the road.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, that was Doug Dinan, the head coach of the Carroll Chargers, the state runner-up Carroll Chargers, who will face Warsaw at Warsaw on Friday night or 2 weeks, 2 Friday nights from now. Not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, as Class 6A and Class 5A all kind of have that bye week
Right.
because of the size of those classes. They start it, in the sectional semifinal round. But yeah, great interview with Coach Dinan, Shannon, and he said it best. All the controversy that's out there about what happened on Friday night with the SAC. At the end of the day, you got to go out and play who's ahead of you, win your games, and at the end of the 9 weeks, you're conference champion. But also, the Carroll Chargers have a lot to play for still more, and the emphasis is on the postseason.
Absolutely. And don't take anything, them saying that, the Summit Athletic Conference isn't important to him, because it is important to him. But like he said, you can't win a conference championship and get beat by one of the better teams like Snyder and expect to win it. I mean, that was his emphasis. You win all those games in the Division A, and then you're not having those discussions. They didn't. They lose the tiebreaker between Snyder and them, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate Doug coming on tonight, and best of luck to the Chargers along the way. Another big night for the NE8 as well, Coach, where we did know going in, and it did happen, the fact that we could have 3 conference champions in the Northeast 8 Conference,
We
did. And Leo, East Noble, and New Haven, they all get the job done there on Friday night, beating their respective opponents. And now we have a 3-way tie for that conference. No rule changes, no interpretations of the rules, no slipping something in at the last minute or having to retract. But so congrats to those 3 teams. And we're going to go ahead and bring on one of those coaches now. From the victorious Leo Lions, we have head coach Jason Dorfler. Coach, first of all, congratulations on winning the NE8. Your first conference championship, as a coach and probably as a player too. First, how does that feel to hear conference champions, the Leo Lions?
Yeah, I mean it's a great feeling. It's a testament and a credit to our guys, who after week 4, our New Haven loss, things didn't look too great. We had to play East Noble the following week, and just to put us into a position where we had a chance is really a credit to our seniors and our players from top to bottom.
Sure. It feels like, you talked about the New Haven loss and then, the big win at East Noble, which was a close game. That kind of murderer's row of a schedule. And every team kind of goes through that. You got 8 teams in the conference. Columbia City had to do it, and they played all 3 back to back to back, and they lost all 3. We saw how that kind of flipped their season upside down. The strength of the NE8 this year. You have 3 conference champions. You have those 3 teams that are top 10 Class 4A teams. Also now in the same sectional, we'll see a sectional rematch of the regular season with East Noble and New Haven. But that overall, that conference, just talk about how good of a conference it was this year and how tough it was to come out as a co-champion.
Yeah, the NE8, I'm relatively new to the NE8. I spent all growing up, in the SAC, and then played in the SAC, and then coached in the SAC. So it was, I didn't know much about the NE8, but I will say this: there's some very, very good programs. There's some very, very good coaches, and top to bottom, it's an outstanding league. So for us to come out on top with East Noble and New Haven this year is, a huge accomplishment. And I did hear Coach Dinan say this earlier. We do have other goals, and this is a great accomplishment. But we want to, we want to win in the postseason, and that's not going to be an easy task with our sectional. There's a lot of good teams, many of which we saw in the regular season. So it's going to be a huge challenge, but it's one that I think our guys are excited for, and we're ready to go.
Coach, talk a little bit about Kyle Decker and his development as a quarterback. Last year he kind of got thrown into the fire, so to speak, and you kind of was a work in progress with him. But going into this year, here's a kid that threw for almost 1,200 yards, 56% in completion rate, had 12 touchdown passes, but only had 4 interceptions on the year. How was, talk a little bit about, his development and, kind of what he has been able to accomplish this year compared to where he was a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, he's had an outstanding year. And to be fair, he was a quarterback in a double tight T offense. Mm-hmm. And, the things that he was asked to do, changed dramatically with the coaching change and Coach Souter moving to assistant principal and all that stuff. So a lot of this, and it goes across to a lot of positions, but it was all new. And last year, for the most part, he did a good job. We struggled early on, but as he progressed, our offense progressed. And, he had 12 games as a starting quarterback last year, and that's experience that's just really hard to pass up, and you played quarterback at a high level. The game kind of slows down. You get more comfortable with things. You're seeing things. You're kind of a step ahead where you were the year prior. And that's kind of what we're seeing with Kyler this year. He's done a great job. His confidence is a lot higher. And obviously we have some some good weapons at receiver and running back, so that helps as well. He knows, he doesn't have to be the best player on the field all the time. He just needs to get the ball to the best players on the field, and he's done a good job with that.
What about your running backs? I know that Fuller and Mounds are both kind of been in the fold, with Fuller kind of carrying the most out all year long. Yeah, talk about the development of your backfield this year.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we did lose Brett a couple weeks ago, and he's hoping to get back. He has a shoulder, a collarbone issue, and he's hoping to hopefully we can progress a little bit into the tournament and he can return. But for the foreseeable future, he's going to have to shut it down. But
I thought he was going to be able to come back. I didn't know that was kind of said and done.
There's a chance,
Okay.
and we're hoping, fingers crossed. But he's got some appointments this week and so on and so forth. But he was a great leader for us. He was a great running back. Now Aiden has stepped up and done a great job as well. Both of those guys are seniors. They played a lot of football. They play on both sides of the ball, so they're used to mixing it up and physical style of backs. Last year, I think we had a guy that was very, very special in Max Leffler. So we don't necessarily have the explosiveness that he had, but Mons sees some things very, very well in the backfield. We've had some other guys step up. Dearius Carter, he's also a senior. He's doing a great job, and we could see him get some more carries as well. So it's kind of been by committee, just with a lot of guys playing both ways. Camden Zeisloft is another kid that can play some running back. He's one of our better defenders, and he also is a great receiver. So it's just a matter of trying to get the ball in the hands of the guys that can make the big plays.
Yeah, Coach Jason Dorfler from the Leo Lions joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Coach, you move ahead to sectionals now. This is one of the more talked about sectionals. You kind of alluded to it earlier in the year. You draw Southside at Southside first off the bat. That's a favorable matchup for you, admittedly. But beyond that, with East Noble, New Haven in that bottom half of the bracket, and on the top you have Dwenger, Wayne. So really good programs. Just what your preparation is like as you get into the thick of it, and know that there's multiple teams that you could play, and also not overlooking Southside at the beginning, but also getting some good practices in, and keeping in mind there are several different combinations of who you could be playing potentially in the following weeks.
Sure. Yeah. It is. We play a schedule which consists of basically almost everybody in the sectional. The only teams that we hadn't played in the sectional were Dwenger, Wayne, and Southside. So, going into the draw, we were somewhat confident in that we had seen a lot of the teams. Now you mentioned we drew Southside. We haven't seen them in the regular season, but we did play them last year. Now they've done a lot of good things this year. They're playing a lot of young guys. I think their starting quarterback and starting running back are both freshmen. That's something that you don't see very often, and they are very impressive. So we have to take it one step at a time. I know that may come off as coach speak or whatever, but look at we use the example on Saturday morning of Purdue basketball. They
oh boy,
they show up and
easy there, Coach. Easy.
Sorry, but that's just not how high school athletics works. So we're gonna have to play. We're gonna have to play well. We're gonna have to be ready. And Southside speed is a concern for us. We feel like they got some guys that can play, and we're gonna have to play well. Last year we played them in the first round of the sectional, and it was a ball game, and it was it came down in the fourth quarter, it was still in question. So I think, there's not going to be any looking ahead for us. Obviously, I know a lot of people are going to pay attention to the East Noble and New Haven game, and rightfully so. Those are two really good teams. If we're fortunate enough to get past our first game, we'll turn our attention to that one. But, it's everybody, we said it as well. It's a new season, and Southside doesn't want their season, their year to end. They have they have 20 seniors on their roster. So, there's guys that don't want their football career to end. So our goal at this point is just to extend the season one more week. And, we all of our attention's on the Archers, and we'll be ready to go.
Part of the success you guys have had this year, Brock Schott, a big-time guy that's getting a lot of big looks, and the addition of Caden Hurst. For you as a coach, you come over, this is your second year at Leo, to have playmakers on the field that on both sides of the ball, and really all three phases of the game too. Just talk about that and how that's kind of helped your team improve throughout the last couple of years.
Yeah. We have some tremendous individual players. The thing that really sticks out to me is how team oriented these guys are. So, they and I can't take credit for it here. Leo has an excellent culture in terms of athletics, in terms of their football program, and it is a thing where a lot of people sacrifice for the greater good. They care deeply about the program and care deeply about each other. So Brock, with all the attention he has received, and rightfully so, he is one of the more humble kids you'll ever run across. I mean, he would never come across as a guy with double-digit Division I offers and coaches from Ohio State and Miami coming to games and watching him play. He's a team guy, very humble, and our hardest worker. And I know it's been said a lot throughout the years, but when your best player or best players are your hardest workers, that's when you really have something special. So, Brock is an outstanding player, offensively, defensively. He's on our special teams, a lot of them. I mean, he's an outstanding kid with a bright future in football. And Caden, very similarly, he's come over and he's stepped right in, and he's adopted that team first attitude. He had never played much defense. He plays every snap on defense now. He's a huge guy in our return game. And obviously we've gotten the ball to him in a variety of different ways. We've thrown it to him. We hand the ball off to him. We snap it to him. When the ball's in his hand, we have a chance. So it's a good thing. But again, same thing. Great kid. He's been, tremendously humble, hard worker, and his teammates love him. So it's been a good thing. And, I'm glad they're on our team because they're very good players.
Absolutely. Well, certainly a great team and a great bunch of players. And a great season for you guys, co-NE8 champions, 5 straight wins to close out the regular season. You guys 7-2, 6-1 in the NE8. Now you head to 4A sectional 19 play with a Southside matchup on Friday, and then we'll see how things shake out. Coach Dorfler, thanks for joining us tonight on Upon Further Review. Best of luck the rest of the way, and congrats on a great season again.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on.
All right. Thanks so much. That was Jason Dorfler, the head coach of the Leo Lions, the NE8 champs. Coach, boy, what a whirlwind it's been for him to come in. He was the Northrop coach before, found some success, got some traction there going, and then the opportunity to move over to Leo opened up, and it's been a bang for him. 15-6 in 2 years for Leo under Coach Dorfler, and some awesome playmakers that really make that team go.
No question. He's done a good job there, and, kind of got thrown right into the mix and followed a pretty good coach, and Coach Sauter there, who had some success prior to his arrival. And this is a team that you got to keep an eye on. Tough sectional though. I mean, this sectional is man. I'm not sure they'll face any other tougher schedule after this sectional and the regionals or semi-state, because there's an awful lot of good teams in this sectional. But I think there's somebody to keep an eye on. They're bound to make a run here.
Yeah, absolutely. A year ago, they made it to the sectional championship, losing to Columbia City, which was the NE8 champion and had a great year. And the sectional championship the year before, losing to Northridge. So and the sectional championship the last 2 years before that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, is that 5? So they're going through, I think, their 5th or 6th straight sectional championship game now, trying to get over that hump. A really good team to do it. But like you mentioned, that tough competition in that sectional will really bear out in the next couple of weeks.
Well, you know who's going to know the answer to this is the guy that we're going to bring on right now, Justin Kinney from Outside the Huddle, and fellow 1380 The Fan gentleman with us here tonight. Mr. Kinney, how are you doing?
Gentlemen, we're doing well. How about yourself?
Well, we're just trying to make sense of some of the craziness that happened this past weekend and talk a little bit about the sectionals that are upon us. And we just talked with Coach Dorfler from Leo, who may have one of the toughest sectionals to go through than anybody. That sectional, not just Leo, but that sectional in general may be the toughest sectional around, because not only do you have those NE8 tri-champions in there, but you also have Bishop DeWanger in there. So that sectional is crazy.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, guys, it's if there was, a sectional of death, so to speak. And I can tell you this, guys, in talking to coaches in that sectional, nobody wanted to draw Wayne. Nobody wanted Wayne, first off. And talking to coaches in the NE8, particularly in the NE8, with teams like New Haven, East Noble, Deal, nobody wanted to draw Wayne. Dwenger gets that assignment coming up, and now it's a Wayne team that they hope to get Harold Mack back at some point, maybe as soon as this weekend, which would be huge for them to go to Bishop DeWanger. But that sectional is just it's crazy. It lines up well, at least for Leo, in which two of its primary foes in the NE8 play each other in East Noble and New Haven. And then they only have to go to Southside. But remember, what was it, 2016? A 7 or 8, 9 win Leo team just got absolutely thumped in the playoffs by Southside. So by no means are the Lions need to overlook that game against the Archers next Friday.
No,
Yeah.
Absolutely right. These, when you get to this part of the year, everybody's going to have their A game. Southside is taking their lumps on the year. They had some, finally found the win column here of late. But like you said, Leo better not be peeking ahead to that East Noble New Haven game, or Southside could creep up on them real quick. What was your overall take of the year here in Northeast Indiana? Be it the SAC, Northeast State, ACAC, just overall football in general in Northeast Indiana for this season?
Well, a couple of things stand out. I think you look at the SAC, the first year of the division format, and I thought it worked as intended. It was supposed to give teams in the SAC an opportunity to step out of the league and play a couple non-conference games, whether it was big state powers for the top teams or teams in which the lower tier teams could maybe get a dub or two before they head into the SAC season. So I think it served its purpose in the SAC. I think they need to work out a couple things in terms of communication on how everything works out in the SAC. And I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a second. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it did what it was intended to do. And then in the NE8, guys, I mean, if we're talking about a league in the area that is as exciting week in and week out, I know so much of the attention in the city is to the SAC, and I get it. But there is no league in the area, guys, that's as riveting week to week to week as the Northeast 8. It's been that way for the last couple of years, and it delivered again this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could look at the standings there that dude has on the screen, and you can see that what is that, 7-8 teams there, all of which probably could have beaten one of the other, if they had home and home series all year long, because it is so much of a competitive balance league. And we've seen that some in the Summit Athletic Conference as well. But yeah, I think over the last 2 years, it's been a very intriguing NE8, more so than it has ever been.
No, I agree. And maybe the biggest thing is there's not one team that's clear cut above everybody else. And I think that's the biggest thing is East Noble's good, Leo's good, New Haven is good. But there's nobody that everybody's chasing at the top. It's kind of like dog eat dog in the NE8. And you had that last year, of course, with Columbia City, but you never felt Columbia City was good enough that they were clearly going to beat everybody. They really had to work and earn it last year. And that was the case again this year. Unfortunately, we got a three-way tie at the top, but it's almost fitting considering how close those three teams were all season long.
Well, I'll say this, and then you can pipe in here. East Noble, to me, the game that we had against them with New Haven a couple weeks ago. Now I know Mylan Graham was in the game due to injury. That said a lot of it. But East Noble's offensive line may be one of the better ones in Northeast Indiana that I've seen. Now, I haven't had the pleasure of watching Leo in person this year, but East Noble up front are big. They can move the pile well, and they showed that against New Haven rather easily 2 weekends ago.
No, I mean, Leo has been able to do that to several teams. I watched him do it to Bishop Lures, or East Noble. Excuse me. East Noble was able to do it to Bishop Lures in week 1, and there's nothing more demoralizing, guys. You guys know, than knowing your team is going to run against you and not being able to stop it. And I watched that in week 1 with Bishop Lures, and it was basically what East Noble was able to do to New Haven a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure we'll try to do it again coming up next Friday. But I agree with you, Shannon, in terms of the physicality, in terms of the strength, in terms of the get off the ball and the initial push and the leverage, all of that stuff. East Noble's offensive line is phenomenal. And when you can block, when you can open up holes, when you can protect your quarterback, then it allows you to do so much in your offensive scheme. And we've seen that the last several weeks with East Noble. I mean, even when they played Leo, you felt that they were in that game, of course, that 14-7 game, and you felt like they did a lot of good things.
Right.
And so you look back at these top 3 teams and you say, man, if East Noble, Leo play again, it could go a different way. Of course, Leo and New Haven, that could go a different way. So we get at least 1 rematch, and we'll get maybe 2 if Leo can get past Southside. So we're not done by any means with these NE8 teams beating up on each other.
Certainly not. Justin Kinney joining us here on Upon Further Review from outside the huddle, and Caleb and Kinney in the morning on 1380. Back to the SAC Friday night. What happened? I mean, from a media perspective, and I think a lot of the coaches and a lot of the ADs, probably even up until that, thought come Friday night, we're probably going to see, if Homestead beats Lures, we're going to see Lures, Snyder, and Carroll walk away with co-champions. They even tweeted out on the Carroll Twitter page, and then an hour later, oh, we're not champions after. Where was the breakdown? What has happened all season long that we got to the end of the regular season and we really weren't sure who the conference champions actually were?
Well, guys, I talked to a couple coaches through Friday night into Saturday and all that, and talking to them, and even talking to some coaches during the regular season. And none of us really understood. Nobody really saw there was no release by the SAC that said this is how this is going to work. I think internally there was something there, and some coaches had it, and some coaches knew it, but not every coach and not every AD was aware of what was going on. So on Friday night, you had certain parties at Carroll thinking they were co-SAC champions. Other people, and Doug Dynam being one of them, understood that they were not co-SAC champions. I think the biggest thing that this comes down to, guys, we're all married guys. It's all about communication, right? That's what the SAC is missing. from the top down is this needs to be thoroughly communicated to all ADs, all coaches. Everybody needs to understand, and then of course get it out to the media so we can all understand it.
Yeah.
So we're not sounding like idiots because we don't need any more help with that than we already have. And so that's basically where we're at, guys. It was. I understand that the bylaws were made. It clearly stated what was going on. It's just the lack of communication, presenting that to the people that needed to know was not there.
From the division standpoint, do you think they got it right? I mean, do you like lures? I've said Northrop shouldn't be in the A division. That's my personal thing. From a landscape of the way it's broken up, do you think that aspect of it is right, and what teams are where?
Eric, it's interesting. I have no problem with the division format. I like the fact that the SAC has 2 non-conference games. Okay. It's what we've been wanting for a long time. So you knew if you got that, then every team wasn't going to play each other. But my issue is you look at that A division, B division, guys, and you're looking at arguably the 4 most consistently good teams are in the A division. Okay. You got Snyder, Homestead, Carroll, Dwenger. You could flip and put Bishop Lures over there. You could flip and put Northside over there. But the point of the matter is they aren't balanced divisions. Okay.
No.
Let's be real. And so if they're not balanced divisions, then you really can't have division champions. It's almost like separating the Big Ten into the top 6 teams in one and the 6 teams in the other. It's not even. So my issue is if we're going to crown champions and have the division champions, then if they don't play, you crown co-division champions, then that's an issue because you have the majority of the best teams in the A division. But this is not to take anything away from Bishop Lures. They played the schedule that was presented them. They only lost 1 time, and within the rules, they are co-SAC champions. But I don't understand how you split the divisions in the way you do and then say the divisions are even, because they're not even. Okay. You have the top 4 programs, arguably, in your entire league in the same division. So they're not even. And that's my biggest issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think too, according to the release that went out from Fort Wayne Community Schools and the commissioner, Adam Swinford, who has also switched schools since becoming the commissioner, there was, not even division champions to begin with. So I think part of it was too the aspect of the head-to-head within the division, but you don't have a division champion. But then 2 people from the same division can't be champion because of the head-to-head and all of that. But it's been an interesting thing, and I think we'll look at it going forward and tweak it. Meanwhile, real quick, ACAC, Adams Central, they left no doubt from week 1 and and week 1 of
Since
last year,
2015.
They continue to roll. Are we going to see a 4th straight state championship matchup between Adams Central? Well, not 4 straight from the ACAC, Adams Central and Indy Lutheran again. We'll say, or are we going to see that again? Is that kind of the expectation we think in Class 1A? Is that a good assumption?
Definitely looks that way, guys. I mean, Lutheran looks powerful again. Adams Central does. Think about this if you're an Adams Central fan or if you're Michael Mosier, okay? So you've gone to the state championship game 2 times in a row. You could potentially go there 3 straight years. It will lead then to you getting bumped up to Class 2A, and you may have to face then Indianapolis Lutheran in 2A. You could conceivably lose 3 straight state championship games to the same team and get bumped to 2A with that team.
There you go. Not lost in that. Great year for Heritage again. I mean, they just fall short because of Adams Central, but another great year. They're going to be good in the sectional, that 3A sectional with Concordia, Woodland, Garrett, and Belmont. I mean, I think they can do some damage there. They've had a good year with Casey Kolkman in that group.
Yeah, they have, and it's great to see. I mean, Casey Kolkman, you guys know, one of the best dudes to deal with in this area. Has done a great job at Northside, did a great job at Bluffton. Now he's working his magic at Heritage, and Kobe Meyer has been a tremendous asset to that team. But it's just a culture-driven renaissance, resurgence, so to speak, for Heritage, because that team was down with, it was Belmont basically is what it was, and the right guy came in at the right time. and started slowly making changes. And I think if anything, you look at that and you say patience. And I've talked to Coach Kolkman about this, is you can cut corners and you can keep guys that are really good but don't fit with your culture. And in the short term, it's good, but in the long term, it hurts you. Those are tough decisions to make, especially in a world, guys, where we're instant gratification type people, and you always have people breathing down your neck about wins and losses. Shannon, I'm sure you could talk about that ad nauseum. But that's what Casey Kolkman could have said. Yeah, we're going to keep some certain players and do certain things and turn this thing around really quick, but maybe not have that strong foundation. He's been able to build that strong foundation, has a great staff with him, and now it's a Heritage team that's seeking its first sectional championship in over a decade. And it was a team that we knew they'd be good, but guys, I don't know if we expect them to be second in the ACAC good, and they've been able to do that. And kudos to Coach Kolkman and his staff and those kids. It's been a great year, and Heritage has as good a shot at it as any, as you said, dude, in that 3A sectional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's going to be, outside of this bye week, I guess you could say, for the 6A and 5A groups, Heritage, I like their possibilities of making a run. You can never throw not Belmont, but Bluffton out of the equation either, because they kind of did that a year ago. That's kind of when they caught fire, was in the tournament. I think Snyder's got a chance. Of course, we know that's with limits, because when you get to the semi-state, that's when everything kind of hits the fan in terms of who plays who. But I do think Adams Central's the best possibility of getting someone down to state this year. But only time will tell. But I do have an answer for you on the Summit Athletics stuff, and I've been an advocate for this for at least 4 or 5 years. They need somebody that's in the central office that all they do is athletics. They are the commissioner, the overall AD, the schedule, whatever that is, so that everybody answers to one person and one person alone, because these ADs that have multitude of things to do during the day on top of the principals cannot handle the amount of coverage that high school sports is receiving nowadays like they did 30 years ago. It's not possible. You can't do it. And I know there's been many people advocating this approach over the years, but it's never gained traction with the Fort Wayne Community Schools. You think now it may get some traction with having somebody that's at the central office that can be that person that has the answers for A, B, C, and D, or, however the winter tournaments ran in basketball, or, all these things that go into the area when it comes to high school athletics.
No, I love the idea, Shannon. I really do. I mean, one issue though that the SAC does have, I don't know if it's an issue, but you have to get other schools on board, is only half of your schools in the SAC are Fort Wayne Community Schools.
Right,
so,
right.
But if Carroll and Homestead and Dwenger and Lewis and Concordia are like, yeah, great, then they'd be on board. But I do think that that it's needed. At the very least, and Wendy Robinson did a lot of great things, superintendent, late superintendent, but didn't care much about athletics, and that was fine. She did a lot of great things, and was my principal at Price Elementary School back in the day. But the new superintendent now at Fort Wayne Community Schools has put a little bit more onus on athletics and the importance of athletics for our young kids in the city. And I think now taking that next step and having somebody in charge fully of the athletic programs, even just the 5 Fort Wayne Community Schools, guys, that all the ADs report to at the central office, would be absolutely phenomenal. So I think it's a great idea, and maybe we'll see it here in the foreseeable future.
Well,
I think
Indianapolis
they've
does that
a little bit. I know Virgil Tharp has been in, and that's somebody that some of us know that maybe not all the viewers would and listeners, but I think there's always room for improvement and change. And I think, after what we've seen this season, they will certainly probably all sit down and at least evaluate, okay, where we were. But I think as a whole, most of the AD, I mean, they approved it. The ADs and the principals, they seem this is what they wanted. This is what they've got. And now you have to sort through the back end where kind of things happen where you're deciding on a Thursday, okay, this is what we mean by this rule. Oh, by the way, now we got to go tell Carol this. And it's like, and the media has no idea. And so those ADs hate Saturday morning calls from us too. So I think it's one of those things where it's, I think it'll play out because it works in other conferences. Because the alternative is you could do the NECC stuff and just count the divisional games, which I've never understood either. Because it's like, what a mess that is. But anyway, but I think they've got a good start to it, and I think it's bore out that it was week 4 and week 5. It wasn't like, oh, this team's already the champion. So there you go. So, well,
Right.
Justin, we appreciate you coming on tonight and joining us Upon Further Review, and we look forward to your coverage and outside the huddle, and of course you and Caleb in the morning, Caleb and Kenny in the morning every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 on 1380 The Fan and 100.9. Thanks for joining us, Justin.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Love the show. Keep it up. We'll see you around. All right.
All right. Take care. Justin Kenny joining us to wrap things up tonight. Coach,
he knows
a lot of
everything.
good insight. We could spend all night. We could do a whole another show on this stuff, but I think it's important to know that it's good to see ultimately that people care so much about high school sports in this area. It's not just football season. We got volleyball, we got soccer.
Right.
It's a big time of year, but football for sure, obviously. Fort Wayne's a big football town, and I think that really has shown all season long with this new divisional alignment.
Here's the problem, and then we can end after this. But the problem is everybody wants to loop football with all these other sports, basketball, all of them. And football has always been the odd sport because it's essentially you play 10 games and then you have the tournament and that's it. Where other sports maybe play 15, 20 games on a year and those type of things. But when you have a fall season overlapping with a winter season, the winter school sports, because basketball is already, started and they're getting ready to start their season here in a week or two. That's where I think having somebody at central office, I know down in Indianapolis, they do this, where it's, there's an athletic director for the entire conference or the entire Fort Wayne Community Schools, or however you want to look at it, that helps the school ADs with everything. Especially something like this, to make sure it's communicated properly, making sure everybody's on the same page and not left to, well, I thought he was doing it over at Northrop, or I thought so-and-so was doing it at Snyder. That's what
I've heard ADs that never even saw the press release. They're announcing, not that they didn't know about the divisions. They never saw. I'd say, well, the press release said this, or according to this is what I never saw the press release. Well, that's on you, but also at the same time, that's what I'm saying is that's what we have to go off of is the 3 paragraphs that got sent out on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:00 in the middle of January. And since then, we have not heard anything beyond that. Not to say that we need to, because it's run pretty smoothly. But when you get to the end of the regular season and on Friday night, kids are finding out we are champions. Oh, now we're not. It's just a weird thing.
It wasn't handled the best way in that regard, but
anyway,
it goes to the point of you can't put something that you did in January away when you've changed how you ran your season for the last 50 years.
Right. And some of those bylaws they might be using are from the old system, which don't necessarily fit. And I don't know.
Yeah, this is the
I haven't seen the bylaws that they talk about.
First year of a new dynamic that they needed to cross their I's and dot their T's. And it sounds as if maybe they only dotted the I and didn't cross the T. And therefore you have the confusion. But that's something we can debate another time. We're going to be at it this week.
We got a Friday night show to do too with Jim, and we'll all be back together.
We're going to be out at East. Yeah, we're going to be out at New Haven.
Yeah, 1380 game of the week, the 4A sectional 19 first round game, East Noble at New Haven, a rematch of the regular season matchup from 2 weeks ago that caused the three-way tie for the NE8. Kickoff at 7, the pregame at 6, postgame at the New Haven Pizza Hut. Look forward to being out there. Look forward to being with you, Coach. And thanks again to 1380 for hosting us this week, again, on their radio platform. Thanks to Justin Kinney. Thanks for Jason Dorfler. Thanks for Doug Dinan for all joining us. That's it. We're out of time. Until next week, this has been Upon Further Review. We'll see ya. Have a good Football Friday.